Here's the story of a lovely lady who was bringing up 3 very lovely girls. All of them had hair of gold.
All right, 2 weeks in a row of gracing our audiences with that lovely theme song that is kind of an earworm for me.
You know what? I've heard that you like to hum songs you heard recently.
I'm listening to that now, and I think I can pick out some of the individual voices they're singing. I heard a little Greg in there. Did you guys hear any Greg?
Oh, yeah, Greg's the dominant force in it.
Who's the dominant female? You think that's Marsha?
Yeah.
That's Marsha, it would be.
It's the older siblings.
Jan's just not even really trying. She's just humming the whole thing, and she doesn't know any of the words.
You know, when it's that registry, the higher registry, I can't really discern or hear anything, which is why I never hear what Brian has to say. Bada boom! Gotcha!
Oh, man, you missed the best part of the show.
Yeah, so the theme song is wonderful. The Brady Bunch is wonderful, and we're back at the Bootu Boys studio. I'm Spencer. This is Van and Brian with me. We're going to talk about some more Brady Bunch this week.
Who's your favorite Brady, Spencer?
They're all so different from one another.
I know you'll have a definitive opinion.
I just froze completely. I don't see how in the episodes we watched that, well, I can't like any of them, but I can't go with anyone over Jan because at least her character template is built off of something with flaws, and I like that. You need a little flaw. They maybe overdid it with Jan and gave her like only flaws, but I need something that I can believe is possible, and most of them just are so overly simplistic in their poor executed writing that I don't like any of them, so I'd have to go with Jan.
What about you, Van?
Jan was my answer because she's evil.
Okay.
She's mean.
How about you?
Well, Cindy, for similar reasons, I think she's kind of a mischievous
Cindy's
sprite.
a fair choice.
Yeah, she, again, reminds me of Kathy from Father Knows Best, although more cranial.
The boys
muscular.
are just total blank slates. Just nothing.
They're just boys in the 70s.
Nothing
Hey, guys,
on.
boys will be boys. Boys are gonna play. Boys in the mud. You know how everybody just says stuff about boys?
Yeah. I think your last thing was boys in the mud.
Yeah,
that's where they are.
You know,
That.
They're gonna go play in the mud and football.
Yeah,
well, they're back
absolutely.
in town. They get in the mud.
Yeah, I resented that a lot as a clean boy, as a youth. That everyone were boys are always rough and dirty.
Yeah,
man, not
well,
all
if you're
of
not
us.
dirty, you're not doing something right. That's what that generation would say.
Well, everyone
That's like
leave
a country
me.
music song. If you ain't dirty, you ain't right.
Maybe that should have been the title of Marsha's solo album. So
If you ain't dirty, you ain't right by Marsha Brady.
I didn't get to bring this up last week, but the Brady Bunch got a lot of credit actually for bridging Gen X and the Boomers. Both generations liked the show, saw something in the show they liked, and they discussed the generation gap between parents and children. And that's apparently something that the show is now appreciated for, and many shows didn't do at the time.
They took 2 generations that are bad and made them bad together.
Well, I'm not going to defend either of those generations.
You know what I was thinking about? Okay, so last episode I mentioned how it was kind of weird that Vietnam never gets brought up, nor does any cultural issue of the time. But also weird is that none of the familial issues you would think would arise from 2 separate families just kind of smooshing together.
Oh man, did I ever want to talk about that when we do our recap and we look at the show?
Okay,
I want to
cool.
talk a lot about
We'll
that.
save it for that because I have a lot of not ideas. I'd like to rewrite a new Brady, but no, I have a lot of thoughts on this too. I found the absence of a lot of conflict weird.
Yeah, they probably missed quite a bit in trying to recreate any kind of realistic family dynamic. I guess that wasn't really a thing at this time much.
But that works better for me if the show's funny or something.
Sure.
But it isn't.
So you didn't think that...
It's uproarious.
Did you guys think any of the jokes landed at all for you?
In this
these 2?
episode, yes.
Okay. All right. That's,
sort of.
That's exciting.
When we get there, I might have something
All
to
right.
say, but off the top of my head, I have nothing.
So this week's episode is Fright Night. It was season 4, episode 6, and it aired right before Halloween in 1972.
Those were the days.
So what we were talking about last week, where I said, I feel like they aged a lot in 1 year. It really was just like a year's difference in season. I don't know how their filming schedule worked, but I was thinking maybe season 3 and 4 were a couple years apart. But no, this is 1972, and they all looked a lot different in this episode.
Hey, kids grow fast, man.
And Mike's hair.
And Mike's hair grows fast. Well, give him a year for that thing to poof out more.
It's a very Chia Pet haircut.
Wasn't like, okay, so perms, you just sit down under that thing and it makes it happen immediately, though, right?
Yes, it takes forever.
I don't know that the 3 of us need to figure out what a perm is because I don't think the three of us know.
My mom got them when I was a kid, and
So
I
did
had to
mine.
just sit there for the longest amount of
It's
time.
a while, and it smells weird,
It's
too.
just a bowl that like
It
burns
smells like
their
burning
hair.
hair. Yeah.
Okay.
I will say this though, it could have been like 5 minutes. When you're a kid, all time when you're not doing what you want is endless.
I still think you're right, though. I think it takes at least like 30, 45 minutes and maybe a couple hours.
Yeah, and in the 70s, this business was booming. You've got to imagine those perm alien headlamp chairs were just full.
It lasted for a while, too, because if it was happening when we were growing up, that means it's 20 years later
At
and people are
least
still doing that shit.
through the mid-90s,
Yeah.
I'd say they were going on.
I hope they never come back.
I hope so, too. They're kind of gross.
I don't like perms.
It's just Q-tippy. That's all it is.
I mentioned last episode that there might be some reasons for the family to have changed physically. Perhaps they've undergone some things. Well, this season, the 4th season of the Brady Bunch, starts with the infamous multi-episode arc of the family taking a trip to Hawaii, which I mentioned. Now, what happens there is they encounter an evil ancient idol that places a curse on their trip, and they continually have bad things go wrong until they're able to reverse that curse. So I think having gone through sort of, how should I phrase it? The devil's paradox took its toll on the Brady family. Now, Van is looking at me like nothing you're saying is true.
It may not be, but also it might be because, as we've said in the past, when we cover our second episode of shows, it's typically a little later in the run. They've run out of ideas, and it's weird shit. These first 2 episodes, or the only 2 episodes of the Brady Bunch I've watched,
and will ever watch,
did not have any of that in it. So I don't think that's real.
Oh, it's real. And
but you also said infamous.
Yeah, it's like a thing people know about, and they reference it in later movies and things like that. But I think it's Peter or Bobby or one of them finds this ancient idol thing and thinks it's good luck. But, and again, I'm just going off of decades old memory, but something like maybe you take it's good luck, but then someone else has misfortune because of it. I don't know. It was weird and didn't seem like it necessarily fit the show.
It doesn't, from what you described.
Sure does sound more interesting, doesn't it?
I mean, they tried
I'd give it a try. You guys weren't scared in this episode? It's called Fright Night.
Yeah, I shit my pants.
Yeah, but I did that, but it wasn't related to the show. I just happened to shit my pants.
You love doing that.
The defense mechanism.
I saw someone coming. I had no choice.
The synopsis here, which I read in our preview, the trailer that we do at the end of the second episodes every 2 weeks. When the boys frighten their sisters with a manufactured ghost in the middle of the night, the girls decide to get even. And boy, do they ever. Having seen this episode, guys.
Boy, do they ever.
Boys, there's 3 of them.
I mean, there's just so much getting even all over the place in this episode, followed by being mean to Alice. Did we talk about in advance, or maybe it was Brian, one of you guys mentioned that they were shitty to Alice?
Yeah, everybody's always
And
shitty to Alice.
There's probably no better example of it than this episode we got here, where they just decide to do a mean prank on her for no reason.
I don't know. I'm kind of with them. We'll talk about it when we get there.
I
Maybe
don't know.
not entirely, but a
Yeah,
little bit.
we'll see. Alice has a lot of servant duty in this episode, too, beforehand, and it makes it feel doubly cruel.
Yeah.
By the way, I mentioned in the introduction from the first episode, I did talk about it. They had an episode where the kids got into it with Alice and they tried to replace her with a different housekeeper. And they thought that housekeeper was too formal and stiff and took her job too seriously. So they had to bring Alice back. They were
Cindy buried her.
like, we really want her back. But they actually did try to get rid of her at one point.
I'm surprised Alice wasn't like, wait, you can go home after work? I like this.
So in this episode, we actually get to see a little bit of Carol's talent as a sculptor that we talked about so much last week. She's real good, guys. She's doing a little sculpting when the episode opens, and a significantly more permed Mike is sitting across from it. We learn it's because he's posing for the sculpture.
Yeah, she's making a new husband out of
She's
clay.
making a new Mike head.
She's
That's
making
probably-
a Mike Golem is what she's doing.
This is probably how they replaced Alice. When they said she was too stiff and formal, they meant she was a statue.
Well, Mike says he's tired of posing and needs to get to sleep because he has to work and he's going to be exhausted and get fired if he doesn't stop posing for this sculpture.
I put that he was wearing a swinger shirt here.
He was.
Did you guys know that upside down pineapples, are like a swinger symbol?
No.
No.
Katie, the girlfriend, tells me this. So if you see a car with like a pineapple decal or something and it's upside down, that means they're a swinger.
Was Mike wearing anything like that in this scene?
I don't think so.
Is she talking about during the Brady Bunch time period or just forever? Like it's
Now.
still a thing.
Like it's a thing now. I don't know if it ever was before, but it is now.
This explains why whenever I've approached someone with that decal in their car and asked them for pineapple, they've asked me if I would like to have sex with a bunch of people.
Suddenly it makes sense. Do you like having a bowl full of keys?
Now, see, that reference I do get, but I didn't know pineapples took a place in that. The more you know.
Who lives in a pineapple fuckhouse under the sea?
It makes sense because pineapples are both hard and wet.
Ew.
And they get me really rock hard.
So the camera pans around the girls' room as they sleep, where a strange creaking noise wakes them all up. Jan comments, "Someone must be in the attic, and I bet it's better than Marcia."
And then Jan and Cindy start going, ooh, ah, oh, ah. There's like a series of attempted afraid noises.
While Marcia sleeps through all of it.
Mhm.
She doesn't hear any of those noises, apparently.
And none of them sound scared. They all sound kind of inquisitive.
This changes when Jan looks out the window and sees what appears to be the silhouette of a ghost outside.
Sure does.
And at that point, her blood-curdling scream does wake up Marcia and the rest of the house. Mike and Carol come running in to, I guess, save the day in case there's a murder in the room. The ghost is long gone, though. Mike assures them all, and in his typical fashion, everyone just needs to relax because there is no ghost, and remember, home is wherever you find it.
And I have to architect in the morning. I established this in an earlier scene.
Did you pick this episode on purpose?
No.
Why are you picking 70 shows with ghosts in it? Why does every 70 show have a ghost?
I have to admit that I guess when I look at the possibilities, I know these shows are going to be bad and
You're like,
boring.
ghost.
So I'm like, let's go for a Fright angle. Let's see
Okay.
if maybe their attempted scary ones will do something different for us.
So you're not just pulling up every 70 show and going Control F ghost.
It's ghost o'clock somewhere.
It might work better than the ones that we've ended up having to cover. I don't really know what else to do in a show like this because most of the episodes are going to be bad.
Cindy has a really good line about ghosts in this
What's
scene,
that?
which is when she's explaining what they saw to everyone, she goes, "It was the biggest ghost I ever saw."
Maybe it was.
That implies she's seen other
Just
ghosts.
a bunch of them,
But they're
probably.
smaller.
And
Yeah,
compared
little
the
ones.
sizes of them all.
Would
The
you
other ones
rather-
were dead children ghosts.
Oh, so they're small.
This is an adult.
Would you rather fight 10 duck-sized ghosts or one ghost-sized duck?
When you say ghost size.
Yeah, it could be anything. Could be Jan's ghost. Could be a normal
Could
size
be
ghost.
Ghostface Killer.
Could
be what you mean.
He's pretty big, I think.
He's a good sized guy.
I don't really want to face a ghost duck. I don't care how many of them there are. 10 of them, one of them.
I
It's
don't
too many.
either.
So I think
Although their bills, if they pecked at you, I think would
go
just
right through you.
Yeah.
That's the most dangerous part of a duck.
It'd be the night quacking.
Hey, guys, why couldn't the duck afford his dinner?
He couldn't foot the bill or
He
something.
only has one bill.
Okay, there it
That's
is.
good.
It could be $100 bill. So I never really liked that joke as a Laffy Taffy joke.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll
fine.
get a hold of him.
How do you count cows?
Calculator.
Bingo.
So anyway, there's a ghost, and Jan isn't really all that happy to hear Mike say there's no such thing as ghost. She says, well, there is, and I actually heard it in the attic. It was walking around. It wasn't just outside, Dad. It was in the attic first.
Dad,
And,
Dad, come on.
Dad, your
There are
perm looks
definitely ghosts.
ridiculous.
Have you kids been fucking around with the spirit board again?
So Mike says, fine, I'll investigate. I'll go up and check out this ghost in the attic, but don't worry, there's no such thing as a ghost. So at this moment, Greg and Bobby pop out and pretend to be sleepy, checking on what the commotion's all about. They feign their ignorance just well enough to be believed, and then they return to their room together and laugh, cackling together with Peter as they dance around in the ghost costume he was just wearing, which appears to be a large sheet. This, obviously, now we learn, is who was behind the ghost creation.
Maybe they get away with it for longer if they don't loudly celebrate the middle of the night here, but they just couldn't help it.
Immediately after Mike and Carol pass the room, they start laughing.
Has Alice already popped in with her curlers in to tell everyone they're all stupid and that there's nothing supernatural in the world?
It could be. I most of the things in this episode I kind of skipped over, so could be.
I'm
We might have
surprised
seen Alice.
You just went with curlers because what I put down is that she's wearing her nighttime trench coat.
Meanwhile, Mike and Carol go up to the attic to investigate the ghost thing. They find the
Why?
because they got to find the ghost.
Why? They know it's not real. I guess you do it for kids
Maybe
or
they-
where right?
To prove it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or to figure out what it was in
They
the
could have
first
just
place.
said, we went up there and there's definitely not a ghost, Jen. But they actually go.
I think my problem stems from the fact that I have such trouble sleeping. If I'm asleep and you wake me up for bullshit, I'm going to be pissed. So I'm going to tell the kids, Ghosts aren't real. Shut the fuck up. Go to sleep.
Well,
You're
but-
not winning Father of the Year with that attitude.
Not like Mike Brady would.
No, he did.
Now, theoretically, though, he could be going up there. They could be going up there just to move the rocking chair, for instance, so that it doesn't make the noise.
Don't put your spin on
Well,
this.
maybe that's where
trying.
that's their special place, and they're gonna go up there to fuck in the rocking chair.
Maybe that's where all the Brady children were conceived.
Could be. That's why there was so much creaking up there.
Ghosts moan,
The
guys.
sex.
They do moan.
They do sex.
You know,
You guys wear pajamas?
No.
You guys own pajamas?
as kids, I wore pajamas.
When I was multiple children.
I did as a child.
Okay.
No, I wear a t-shirt and shorts.
Yeah, I don't either. Boxers,
Yeah.
t-shirt, good enough.
Well, I mean, pajamas were probably more common in this time period, or at least TV would have us believe that
Yeah.
because this whole family's in pajamas.
I did leave
Each one of
out.
them.
I do like to wear one of those sleep stocking caps with a ball on top.
It's really long.
I feel
Well,
like
it has
that'd
to be
super
long enough.
cumbersome.
Well, no, because it has to be long enough to when I snore and I go that I blow the ball back up into the air
Oh,
because
okay.
the tip of the cap is falling down into my face.
Mike, by the way, has a really nice, looks like a onesie sort of thing.
He has like a sleep suit.
It's a big deal.
Real men wear sleep suits.
It matches Alice's, what do you call it, sleep trench coat or
Yeah,
whatever?
night trench coat.
So Mike and Carol do discover that there's really nothing going on in the attic. The window's open. The rocking chair is making the creaking. Everything seems pretty normal to them apart from the fact that the window was open. Parents go down to assure the girls everything's fine. They walk by the boys' room, hear the triumphant laughter, and decide, I think we might have our culprits in the ghost case that we're trying to solve here. Not only have Mike and Carol come to that conclusion, but the girls in their room talking separately have the same idea.
Well, Marcia does.
Well, she's real smart.
Yeah, the other two are still like, who we're gonna have to call
Ghostbusters.
yeah, Bill
before
Murray.
their time.
We're gonna have to call the ghost people on the Home Shopping Network or whatever. You know how there's all these reality shows about people that find ghosts?
Ghost hunters. And
Yeah, I feel like it's a big industry now.
It is.
Like Bigfoot hunters.
But they didn't have those for Jan to call.
Well, they were probably coming up with the idea as we speak in this moment. There's a real quick cut here, and then the girls are in the boys' room, infiltrating the boys' room.
Somehow the most hideous of all the rooms in this house.
It's gross.
It's bad.
They're in search of the evidence that proves that they were, after all, the ones behind the ghost business.
Well, there are black and white sports photographs framed in like plain brown wood on the wall.
Did anyone do one of the Bootu boys' standards and like inventory the room to actually talk about the
those
items
that I
in
just
there?
described are in there. They're,
Oh, I
Yeah.
believe you.
Yeah.
Is there more?
I kind of started to do that, but then when you look a little deeper, it's just
Nothing.
stuff that they went to whatever local store and put out.
Yeah.
It's not really anything
the
interesting.
girls' room has a gigantic stuffed giraffe and a
mhm.
poster that says butterfly love on it, which I think is cooler.
That's pretty cool. I didn't notice any of that stuff, so it's not surprising.
Butterfly love is a very early 70s type of thing to
It
say.
is.
Mhm.
It really is.
If it were the 90s, it would be just Butterfly Crazy Town.
Everybody had that poster.
You know, of Shifty Shell Shock. That's the lead guy's
I wish I
name.
didn't know, but you've made me know it.
I played it in your episode, actually.
Yes, you did.
What would be like the male equivalent of Butterfly Love in the 70s to have a poster in your room if you're a tough guy?
Mustang Punch.
I was going to say, like, Rhinoceros Hump.
Ooh, okay. I think I like Mustang Punch better. We'll go with that one for now.
Son of a bitch.
Mustang Hump.
Like, I'd buy that poster, Mustang Fun or whatever.
Mustang Fun. That actually is probably what they would have.
That's like a poster at the Ford factory.
It's in Henry Ford's bedroom. What a weird scenario that is, like to imagine.
To snoop around in Henry Ford's vacant bedroom.
This is my racing car bed. This is my poster of a car.
I like horses, you see.
So of all people, by the way, who cracks this case, I know we've all been talking shit about Cindy and Jan not being good at anything or not very smart, and how Marcia does thinking for all of them. It's actually Cindy who gets the big breakthrough here.
Yeah, she says, hey, I found something.
I found a slide projector under the bed with the slide still in it.
It's Greg's cum box.
Yeah, and how are these not slides of women in full body bikinis or whatever would exist in the 70s? But nothing says 70s like the
Slides.
phrase family slide projector.
We had one, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
We may have.
My
I don't
dad
know.
was really big
I don't
into
think we
slides.
did.
We would do like little things where you go in the living room, turn the lights out, and watch some slides on the projector. It's wholesome.
I think in like the 90s when we grew up and all that, that probably wasn't too expensive. But in the 70s, that has to be like $10,000s of dollars in their
Yeah.
dollars to have this.
That's
Maybe
a
Mike
year of-
architected it.
Year of Alice's salary to get that one
That's right.
slide projector.
That they don't even pay her.
They explained it to her, guys, in advance. They said, this year, no pay.
We've bound your soul in a contract with the Dark Lord.
We'll let you lick up whatever drips from the oven onto the floor.
From her own cooking. So wouldn't you know it, guys, this slide that's left in the slide projector shows one of the boys under a sheet.
I don't understand. What
They're-
do you mean?
they're
What
caught
would this have to do
red-handed.
with anything?
They're caught ghost-handed. Marcia pieces it all together like the detective genius she is. She says the boys aimed the projector out the window into the tree and posits the theory that they tied a rope to the chair and pulled on it from outside.
Fucking Marcia Columbo here.
This
Yeah.
is actually a part where Cindy is super impressed if they did that. She's like, Marcia says, I think they had the rope outside. And then after they pulled on it and took the rope, there's no evidence. Cindy says, smart. Marcia says, what the fuck? They're the bad guys. And Cindy goes, yeah, clever. They're bad, but it is still clever.
I'm just saying I'm filing it away for later use.
Clever boy.
Cindy does agree that payback does need to happen, though. And I guess we'll get to that eventually. But first, we've got a scene where Carol is sculpting some more. Alice walks in with dessert, which Mike grabs greedily and starts shoving in his face, which I guess he hasn't been eating all day while he's been posing as the thought here.
Yeah, I hated this scene for reasons we've talked about. It's like Carol, like, here's my vanity project. I'm such a creative soul. I'm doing a sculpture just of my stupid husband's head. Hey, Alice, slave, come here. Bring me a tray of you know what, head-sized hunks of cake.
Doesn't she know her husband well enough to just sculpt him by memory, too? I feel like if you see that same
Yeah.
head all the time, just go on your own. Go on what's in your head.
I couldn't do it. I don't have that kind of memory. It's a thing. It's why like artists are so good is they can picture and do that. I can't. I simply cannot. If you ask me to draw a chair, if I can't look at a chair, I can't draw it.
So you need the reference.
I need some sort of reference. Because the way my head works, my brain, is when I think of Spencer, I see an outline
chair.
of Spencer and a chair,
And
and
then
that's
you
it.
just draw Alf every time.
Well, it's got Alf's
That'd be
face.
awesome.
Yeah.
He's got the croissant snout.
The beak.
Alice brings the next serving of her giant dessert to the kids, who are all seated at the table Walton style, and they've even got the glasses of milk, just like the Waltons did. I counted, all 6 of them have a glass of milk in front of them.
At least it didn't zoom in on some sad kid's face as he drank it and ate his cake
Poor Luke.
And ate his fucking huge wedge of cake.
with his dead mom.
At least Luke in that episode did not die in the train.
That's true.
There's some happiness to be had there. The girls have already, by this point, cooked up a revenge scheme, which is, let's face it, Marcia thought the whole thing up. And they're just hamming it up right now in an agreed upon dialogue, pretending to the boys who are sitting across from them eating their own boy cake. That attic is super scary. Boy cake sounds disgusting.
It really does. I was thinking about letting it go, but that is the nastiest thing any of us has said. And Brian was talking about Goldar's dick last
Yeah, I
episode.
can't believe they didn't. Boy cake's not what they found under the bed when they were looking for the projector.
Boy cake it's too close to that one kind of porn that people like. It's like, I think it's Japanese.
Oh,
And it's
I
Oh,
know what you're
yeah.
saying
given
now.
the facial or whatever, the big old
Bukkake?
yeah, it's too
Mhm.
close to that. Boy cocky.
Which I thought was butt cake.
No, don't worry. I had this in my notes to come up on the Brady Bunch also.
Bukkake bit.
Oh,
Well, you can
gross.
say it now, and then, anyway.
Marcia says she'll never go back to the attic again because it's so fucking scary up there. Peter jokes that if the ghost is just gonna stay in the attic, maybe we should charge it rent.
Which is hilarious.
It's
Everyone
really funny.
everyone at this point slaps their knee.
Marcia unveils the girls' big gambit, which is if the boys can spend a whole night up in the attic that they're not afraid of because there's no ghost in there, she's gonna give them all the girls' combined allowance. It's a bet.
Which is like 48 cents,
Sure.
but is worth, you could buy a fucking house with it in
Yeah.
the 70s.
It's going to be their allowance or the boys. The boys, knowing that there's no ghost because they invented the whole thing, eagerly accept this deal. Now we find out immediately what happens because there's no break, there's no transition. We're in the attic, and the boys are all getting set up in their sleeping bags, with, strangely, Alice tucking them in up there.
Yeah, Mike and Carol went to bed. This is Alice's deal.
Yeah, I guess Mike and Carol are like, this is stupid bullshit. You shouldn't be
Yeah.
betting there's no ghost. And Alice is like, okay, I'll be the officiator.
Yeah, and we won you in a war or something, so you put our kids to bed in the attic to look out for ghosts.
Well, what happened is some incident, so then they went to trial, and the judge ordered that she be their butler. And
Okay.
That's really what it is.
Okay. At least that explains it.
Alice seems to be enjoying this whole thing. She kind of has like a little sarcastic remark. Oh, don't get too worked up over noises that go bump in the night. And she says something to him about, oh, this is a fool's prank or something, or fool's bet. She's essentially implying this is easy money. You boys have it easy. There is no such thing. Ghosts are so dumb, and there's no such thing as anything supernatural. All you'll have to do is go to sleep and you'll wake up with all that allowance.
And then she says something about the wage gap in the country.
As they prepare for this easy night and a bet they're certain to win, the girls pop out of the room grinning wickedly. Their fun is just about to begin as the boys' night ends.
The girls, you mentioned having a good time. Are they ever? Because I'd like to say this exchange that occurs between Jan and Marcia.
You're going to say the joke that I think is pretty good.
Jan says, all systems are go.
Yep.
And then Marcia says, all systems are ghost. She does it with a shade-eating grin that is bad acting, but I liked it anyway.
I loved it.
Just as sleep starts to hit the boys in the attic, a ghostly voice intones in a creepily calm tone, kind of a whisper almost, inside of a giant trunk, I'm burning up. I've got to get out. Peter scolds Bobby to stop blabbering because he somehow thinks that's Bobby saying that.
Bobby, I'm never going to let you out of your sleeping bag.
Bobby says, it wasn't me. I didn't do anything. And then the voice continues, I must have air. Give me air. The ghost voice continues to moan from within the trunk, and the lid slowly starts to open all on its own. It continues to talk. I'm burning up. I must rise and walk the night. Some sort of, I thought at the time, plastic-looking form seems to be rising out of the trunk on its own.
Yeah, it was like...
Cellophane is what it is.
We learned that.
Is that what it is?
But
At
that
this
is what
point-
it looks like, too, which is plastic,
It
right?
looked like a tarp.
Yeah, I don't really honestly even know what cellophane is by definition.
Cellophane is the stuff that you use in the kitchen to seal. Like instead of tinfoil, you'd use cellophane.
Well, it's like
That's
a worse
what-
aluminum foil then, right?
Yeah, that really thin
And,
plasticky stuff.
it's one of those situations also, it's one of those materials where Alex Mack, when she has a band and she's mad at her friend, she writes a song called Cellophane Friend to say how fake her friend is.
That's deep.
Burn.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the only things I remember about that show.
At this point, when the cellophane person is coming out of the... cellophane person sounds really scary, to be completely honest.
At least it doesn't sound fucking gross like boy cake.
So this cellophane figure, as it's coming out of the trunk, initially when Bobby and Peter wake Greg up from their fright, he does look scared for a second. Peter and Bobby race out of the room, though, and he doesn't. We're assuming he's not convinced it's real and is checking it out, but we learn more about that later.
He's just a straight up adult now, though, right? Like he
Yeah.
looks like an adult.
Yeah, he's 30, 31 by this point.
Again, all this noise has woken Mike and Carol up again, who I guess in this episode it's implied never get to sleep through an entire night. They get out of bed, they check on the noise. Bobby and Peter are freaking out about how there's a ghost in the attic. Now it's the girls' turn to play dumb and pretend they were asleep and don't really know what's going on. Marcia says, what's happening? And then immediately reminds the boys, by the way, you did lose the bet because you didn't sleep in the attic all night.
Very subtle. She does one fake yawn and then is like, pay me.
Yeah, like immediately holds her hand out while she's like, I don't know what's going on at all. By the time Mike and Carol reach the attic to discover whatever's happening there, Greg has already gotten to the bottom of the story, and it is a cellophane wrapping paper with 2 fish lines attached to it and a tape recorder featured a pre-recorded message. That was what we heard that whole time. Pretty complicated rig for just 3 girls.
The final thing that we're going to deal with here in a few minutes is like engineer level
Yeah.
complicated.
Well, these are children of an architect, guys.
I guess that's where it came from.
They know
yeah.
how to build things. I would argue that perhaps continually doing the exact same style of prank within a succession of like the same week, no matter how good it is, no one's going to believe any of it. It's a real crying wolf or crying ghost situation.
At this point, Bobby realizes what's happened and says, you tricked us. This isn't fair. Contest is rigged. Marcia says, yeah, you tricked us first. We still had a bet and you guys lost it. It doesn't matter that it wasn't real. Mike and Carol say, none of it matters. Enough is enough. Stop with the bets or someone's gonna pay. Someone's gonna get hurt.
But then also they're like, now pay up, boys.
Yes.
Wouldn't they just, the answer here is like everybody gets their money back. No one wins.
That seems fair.
Stop it. But no,
Not in
they're-
this case.
They're like, girls, good job, but stop it.
Oh, and guess who the treasurer is who holds all the allowance money? It's Alice. She does it all.
I will add, too, I wrote down this line because Greg is pissed about, okay, fine that we have to stop this, but we lost our bet, too. And Carol says, you know what, Greg? As you always say, it's better to be poor but wiser. Something like that.
Yeah, and Greg's like, I am always fucking saying that.
So Carol's job, because we've established she doesn't have a job, is to say stupid, hokey expressions, because that's all the character does.
Yeah, she's like, I've got this aphorism book I'd like to just talk out of.
They're forgetting the sculpting. She does a lot of sculpting, and it's good.
That's true. She has a mullet. That's interesting.
She kind of does. I didn't think of it that way.
I really hadn't either until I was just picturing her in my head. Looks kind of like Tweety Bird.
She really does. Wow. I've been holding back on the Florence Henderson's weird alien eye head face.
She's got a weird face.
It's interesting. And I'm not saying she's ugly.
No,
saying,
not at all, actually. It's like it is a legitimately unique appearance.
Yeah. It looks like Tweety Bird, as you just stated.
She kind of looks like Tweety Bird.
And you're like, I think Tweety Bird's pretty hot.
I mean, she looks better than I do. By a wide berth.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
So as Brian mentioned, it is
What do you get?
it is Alice who has the allowance and has to give it to Marcia as Greg stands there watching angrily.
It should be noted that Greg is wearing a shirt that I wrote down as Coral Nightmare.
Wow, I can picture it in my head.
You know what? You know the one? Yeah.
Do you think this is better or worse than the tied together shirt?
This is way better because I've seen this seems more natural for a person to wear. He needs to do more buttons up. But again, something about like an adult male, anybody walking around with their family with a shirt that's laced up all in front to where you can just see their belly.
It makes it seem like they should have a lute and they're going to go play in the local bar or something for coins.
Yeah, it made me think Greg was going to be like, bye, I'm off to go be a bard.
Also, huzzah.
Let's take a quick break and then come back with more.
That's the way we became the Brady Bunch.
Alice also takes this time to remind us that anyone who believes in ghosts is a sucker. And that's what she meant when she said this was a sucker's bet. It's not that the boys are going to win because it's so easy. It's just that they're all suckers for ever trying to believe there was a ghost in the first place.
Yeah, focus on the here and now, man. Live your life. Alice has the right of it.
Alice has something else she's focused on we're about to learn of real quickly here.
Yeah, she does.
Before that point, though, Marcia asks Alice, geez, you're so brave. Isn't there anything at all you're scared of? Alice says, no. No, why would I be scared of anything? Greg says, well, what about horror movies and vampires? Marcia says, what about werewolves? Except it sounds like this.
What about werewolves?
I backed up 5 times, no joke, 5 times, going, what?
Yeah, I knew what she said, too, but I was like, why did she say werewolf?
Werewolves.
I don't know if my favorite part's the part that she says were or that it's wolves at the end, werewolves.
Let's play it again now.
What about werewolves?
I don't know what that is.
Well,
and Alice should, again, be like, no one's afraid of that.
That's exactly what I was. I went that direction in my notes. I said, well, Alice says she's not afraid of werewolves, but we don't really know if she's afraid of werewolves because it's a werewolf.
She might be afraid of her tongue having a similar tragedy happen to it while trying to say werewolf.
She's thinking, I guess we need a speech pathologist to help correct whatever's wrong with Marcia.
That's another thing there where if they were even bothering on the takes on the show, they'd be like, Marcia, that's not going to work. We're going to have to re-record that now.
Do you think she messed up or that's what she thinks the word
it is?
Werewolf is?
No one
like it's the equivalent of like in our last episode of Jan had been like, Marcia,
I'm tired of being in Marcia's shadow. Marcia's werewolf. Yeah, that was just, I stopped for probably 10 minutes because I didn't understand what just happened there. That was the best part of this episode. Alice has a little comeback here and it attempts to defuse what Marcia just did. But she says, yeah, they're all bark and no bite, and then starts laughing at her own joke.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. So she leaves, still laughing at how funny she is. Oh, I should mention, when I say she says werewolves are all bark but no bite, before that, when Greg asked her if she's scared of vampires, she says, they're a pain in the neck.
Pretty good.
Alice is funny. She's super funny.
Alice, aren't you afraid of anything? Kids, I'm a full-time live-in lesbian housekeeper. Nothing frightens me.
When she leaves after saying what Van just said exactly, they say, I don't think I believe her much of bullshit. I think she's probably afraid of a lot of things. Greg sees an opportunity for a new prank, one that doesn't involve them, so it doesn't violate the agreement they had with Mike and Carol. This is about Alice.
I
So
wonder what Greg does
I don't think we know.
other than this.
For like a job.
Or like an interest. or
He's a
anything.
Casanova.
He sits in his room and looks at the wall. I think that's the equivalent of what a guy with that brain does.
Yeah, until there's a prank to be played.
It's really funny, too, to think of somebody doing that activity in a shared room because, they
Yeah.
don't have their own room. So staring at your own wall while other people are in there watching you do it.
Hey, Peter, what's Greg doing? He's doing the wall thing again.
Jan's talking to herself, so we're being weird in here, too, basically. In the next scene, Alice is innocently going about her maid business when the phone rings.
See how innocent it stays.
Well, see, I thought this was going to be where the prank started. So I was thinking they were calling her and it was going to be, are you alone in the house, Alice? And I don't know, check the basement, something like that. Turns out, no, it's Sam the Butcher. He wants to take her out to a hot date movie.
Sure, I'd love to go to a movie tonight. Which one? Well, if it's my choice, I'll take the drive-in movie where we've both seen the movie. Huh?
What does that mean?
They're going to have sex.
Oh, so they're not going to watch the movie.
No, they're gonna have sex in the car at the drive-in theater.
They're just going to full on fuck.
With this car's rocking, there's probably a full-time living housekeeper here getting laid.
So I'm all for Alice and similarly middle-aged Sam the Butcher boning in a car. Go
Well,
for
that's
it,
good
guys.
for a butcher. That's good wordplay.
He's got meat.
Yeah, he's gonna get meat. But the thing is, even at our age, we're a little younger than Alice and Sam the Butcher. Seems like it would hurt. Like you'd be sore. Like there'd be maneuvering around in the car.
This is too much information, but as someone who's 6'4" in the car, it's not easy.
Now imagine doing it at their age.
Yeah, with
You
this.
can barely
With
walk
this body.
now.
And
Exactly.
Alice is also 6'4", so she could totally relate to your problem.
She's huge.
You know what? Are any of the Bradys? Are they all just the same height?
They look like it.
They're all the same person,
Yeah,
just marginally tweaked.
yeah. They just turn the knobs in different directions.
And, I, of course, don't know shit about the Brady Bunch, so I didn't know there's a Sam the Butcher.
Yeah.
So this whole time was like, this just has to be a lesbian housekeeper. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. And then she gets this phone call from Sam. Could be Samantha.
Well, no, he's a butcher, and he's just letting her know that at the drive-in theater he'll be bringing the beef.
So you guys know how we just kind of determined all the Bradys could be the same, right?
Mhm.
You guys remember the movie Identity where there's 6 people and they all turn out to be someone's
John Cusack.
their own creation in their head?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe these are all just Jan's inner voices or whatever, and this is their
That
manifestation?
could be.
Let me
'Cause
ask
she
this.
is in a lot of like inner turmoil.
Do you guys remember that movie where there were like 6 or 7 Michael Keatons?
Mm-hmm.
Multiplicity.
God, do I
Multiplicity.
ever.
What if these are, you keep multiplying, they got dumber, but you keep going, they become Brady's.
Okay.
And that's what we have here, a whole family of Michael Keatons who've degenerated into Brady's.
And that explains why some of them, like Cindy, look so much like Michael Keaton.
Correct.
Do you think Rita Repulsa would have any success if she sent Brady's instead of putties?
I don't know, to be honest. If Alice is there, I think she gets shit done.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see him in the same like silver jumpsuit sort of thing. all the Bradys out there
Doing little
I'd watch it.
cartwheels and going.
There's no way there's not an episode where Alice whaps somebody with a rolling pin. That has to happen.
Yeah.
I bet she's good with one of those.
Yeah.
Well, we get to see her use her purse in that way later, so
Oh,
I
good
believe
point.
you. I believe you.
Good
You're
point.
right.
Is that a sex euphemism?
Oh
She's gonna
no.
be using her purse at the drive-in theater.
Well, that could be. That could be a different thing. But no, she actually does whack something with a purse later.
keep some coins in there.
Do you think before they have sex in the car, that's Alice
And Sam.
and Sam the Butcher, he puts down that wax paper?
And at the end wraps up.
Yeah.
You know, this is the second time I've hosted a show in the history of Bootu Boys where people are fucking in cars. You know the other one?
I feel like I should off the top of my head, but I don't.
You should know. You picked it for me. Party of 5.
Oh,
That's right.
Charlie and his ex-flame going
Jack
at
from
it.
Lost,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, he really put up a fight for 5 minutes.
And we watched it, which was weird to me at the time, how the camera just lingered on a car
Yeah.
rocking.
Yeah, we saw a little fucking.
It's a little steaming up two of the windows like in Titanic.
Things have come a long way since the Brady Bunch days. They can just show that now.
Well, they make
Put that
cars
on there.
bigger too.
Do they? I think the cars were bigger in the 90s.
Well, SUVs exist.
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
That's
yeah.
true.
Although the 70s were all about like full-size conversion vans.
Yes.
So I actually think I retract my statement.
And cars that are just a big box. It's just a big cardboard box, but a car.
Just so ugly.
They look like they weighed like 8,000 tons.
Mhm.
Just
And
so heavy.
If you bought one of those vans, you also had to sign a contract to solve mysteries.
I did a little research, guys, because I was curious. We know that Alice and Sam the Butcher are going to go fuck, right?
Mhm.
And they're thinking about going to the movie.
Mhm.
What movies would be playing
One
at
they
that
haven't
time?
seen
What
before.
could they have seen?
I almost did this. I'm not even
Really?
kidding. Yeah,
Well, I did. So I
You
have
know
a list
why?
of
Is because I just absent-mindedly was like, The French Connection came out in 1971.
There's one that's very close to that, in a way.
Is it
We'll
The
get
French
into
Connection 2?
It is the sequel. No, we have a couple of movies that would be airing on October 27th, 1972, which is the date this episode aired.
Okay.
We have Hickey and Boggs, and I'll give you the synopsis of the movie and maybe some stars if they're relevant.
Probably about Wade Boggs.
Or Hickeys.
Both. When you get a Hickey from Wade Boggs,
Ew.
his mustache rubs
With
against
his
your neck.
fried chicken grease.
I was
on
going to
there.
say every whole chicken's dream.
Hickey and Boggs, searching for a missing girl, two detectives find themselves involved with vicious criminals and precipitating a string of deaths.
Oh.
my.
Starring Bill Cosby and Robert
Oh,
Culp.
no.
So I'm going to assume Cosby's the one that caused.
He's the
those
criminal,
things.
yeah.
We also have Night of the Lepus. I think you know
We
that
have
is.
seen this.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it.
Yeah.
Giant mutant rabbits terrorize the Southwest. It's a horror movie. It's great. It's hilarious. Buzz. Police in Boston search for a mad bomber trying to extort money from the city, starring Burt Reynolds and the
Ow.
very recently deceased Raquel Welch.
Oh.
Wow.
That sounds good.
And then we have You'll Like My Mother. Francesca Kinsolving, a very pregnant widow whose husband was recently killed in action
Very
in
pregnant widow.
Vietnam,
Okay.
travels to visit her late husband's mother in a snowy Minnesota town and gets snowed in with her during a fierce blizzard. Forced to wait it out, she slowly uncovers some terrible dark secrets that her mother-in-law has been hiding, such as her psychotic other son, who has recently escaped from the
Whoa.
asylum and is shackled up in the basement.
That's a crazy sounding movie.
Patty Duke, Richard Thomas is in this, a.k.a. John Boy Walton. He's in
Wow.
that.
This is amazing.
We have the one that you mentioned, The French Connection, Last Tango in Paris.
Ah, okay.
Another great movie of the time. Obviously, the story is very different. That was airing.
And another movie really similar to the Brady Bunch.
Very similar. In fact, a young Parisian woman meets a middle-aged American businessman who demands their clandestine relationship be based only on sex, starring, of course, Marlon Brando and Maria Schneider. And then we have a couple more. Lady Sings the Blues, the story of the troubled life and career of legendary jazz singer Billie Holiday, featuring Diana Ross and Lando Calrissian himself, Billy D. Williams. And then our final movie, which opened that night, is The Valachi Papers. Gangster Joe Valachi is a marked man in the same joint where mob boss Don Vito Genovese is imprisoned, and he's forced to cooperate with the DA in exchange for protection. And stars Charles Bronson as, get this, someone out for revenge.
That sounds a lot like people knew that The Godfather was popular.
So yeah, I guarantee that's what that is. So anyway, which of those movies do you think they went to go jerk it to or whatever?
I can tell you it wasn't the Valachi Papers because that was a brand new movie. So he might have been
Something
like,
I'd
Good
seen
point.
he might have been like,
Good
Alice,
point.
I really want to see the Valachi Papers on the other end. And she was like, no, Sam, I want to see a movie we've both already seen before.
So it's probably Last Tango in Paris, right? Because it's been out. It's not
sexual.
not first week, and people do sex in it. They do stuff?
I think we can eliminate Hickey and Boggs, which is a comedy with Bill Cosby,
Yeah.
and Night of Lepus, which, the other horror movie on here.
Which I didn't find erotic.
You'll Like My Mother. That one I think we can wipe out because
Yeah.
they're horror movies. You don't want to go bang to a horror movie if you're their age.
Maybe if you're Rob Zombie or whatever.
Stop burning the witches, Brian. Anyway, that's all I have.
No,
that
that's
was
awesome.
fascinating.
I'm
glad
actually-
you did that.
I'm actually a little bit sad that none of those movies are brand new for us. They sound like a thing where if those were the movies that I could see, I'd
Let's
be
go
like,
see one.
I'd be, yeah, this is happening.
There would never be a first run weekend or whatever where you look at the movie listings
And that's the lineup.
and that's the lineup. It's all just the same, you know.
Superhero movie.
Marvel's
Yeah.
Marvel's 9.
Fast and the Furious sometimes.
It just sounds like such a promising batch, and stupid Alice and Sam are just gonna go fuck over it. Not even, not
even know what they
pay any
have.
attention.
They're not even going to appreciate the tinny sound of the car speaker.
At this point in the episode, it's time to get back to Carol and her sculpture, which is done. Alice remarks, "Oh, you're finally finished with Mike's head," and asks, can I go give Sam head at the movies tonight?
Will you undo my shackles?
Carol says, that's fine. Yeah, you can leave tonight, Alice. I'm going to be out at the sculpture exhibit later with Mike anyway. So since we're leaving, you can leave.
I'm so talented.
At this point, Greg and Peter pop in as the ladies depart to tell us that their scheme is now it's green to go. Greg says, perfect. Mom and Dad will be gone all evening, and Alice will be gone a couple hours from now.
Everything immediately fell into our laps.
Peter says, oh man, that'll be plenty of time to put together this Alice scaring plan. And after a quick transition cut, the three adults are leaving together, with Mike carrying his own head. And Greg, Marcia, and Jan excitedly discuss their big plans.
And Alice has changed into an orange maid outfit.
I did notice, actually. I usually gloss over what they're wearing, but Alice's orange is, you can't miss it. It's like one of those starbursts, the orange ones, to be specific.
Yeah, pretty good.
I love the orange. That's my favorite
Just
starburst.
like those, Sam's going to unwrap her.
And then chew on her for a while, because they're not real easy to just chew
Extract
through.
all the flavor.
Yeah.
Alice is made of gelatin, pig hooves. The next scene, we're starting to get into the whole scheme that Van talked about saying was engineer level. We get just a little idea of the equipment they've got for this thing, and I'm going to do my best here. We only get little glimpses of it, and none of it makes any sense. We see a big skull with a flashing light attached to it. Marcia and Jan are putting together a big old ghost while Bobby has Cindy recording a blood-curdling scream into the tape recorder.
While he stares right at her, she screams straight into his face. And this isn't on the show. She's really doing that, isn't she?
Yeah, and it's pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
her scream
It's a
is
good
really
blood-curdling
convincing.
The whole time I'm like, is Peter okay?
He has to do it like 3 or 4 times, right? Like the
Yeah.
takes are not good enough. So he's
And
like,
she
"Go
wants to
ahead."
keep going. But
Yeah.
she's
She's
like, no,
screaming
I think we're
into
good.
his mouth.
That's another really good Cindy moment because she's so pleased at how good her scream
Mhm.
is, even though she's doing it and sounding
There's
terrified.
something about her that's likable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is exactly.
In terms of my favorite, I'm still going with Jan. But Cindy's growing on me. So all the kids are in on this thing. They've all got their little part to play. They've got it all worked out to where Alice is going to come home. I don't know. They took out a fuse or something. The lights are not working, so it's going to be dark.
That's the other thing. They've gotten into the fuse box.
Yeah.
These kids know how to mess stuff up.
Alice is going to come home. She's not going to be able to see anything. She's going to look for the fuse box, and that's where she'll come across, I guess, the skull and hear the pre-recorded scream. And then this ghost thing that they rigged at the top of the stairs is going to come down on what looked like some sort of connecting line.
Like a pulley and lever line.
It's got the whole thing, and it's going to come down at her while she's hearing the scream, and it's all going to be a master plan of horror.
Then she's going to be just worn out, too. So
They don't know that part. They think she's just going to see a movie.
Her knees are going to be so wobbly, it's going to be hard to even get in the door in the first place, let alone face a ghost descending the staircase.
So Greg runs the plan by everyone one more time, so we can get the benefit of it as the audience. So Greg's going to hit the skull light when Alice gets to the fuse box. Bobby's going to start the tape recorder. The ghost comes downstairs. Greg says, we've spun our web. It's just time to wait for the fly.
Hotel 6, we'll leave the skull light on for you.
I kept saying in my notes, ghosts and skulls, and I just, Vulcan skull.
That's pretty much
That's
it.
all. I just wanted to say it.
I almost wrote an entire joke about that, but I was like, I will leave it as it be.
I just wanted to say it out loud again. I missed them somehow.
Well, you know what?
I was going to say, might as well play it. I should have used that as the underlying background music for my intro. Should have used
You
that.
want Blink Blanc music, you've got Vulcan Skull
Through the
theme.
whole thing.
That would be a good way to make sure no one listened to the intro after like 2 minutes of it. Like, I'm not doing this anymore.
He suffered through years of having to hide his sexuality.
Not that the music I used is any better for that.
That's true. There's no good way to do that.
No. I felt like it needed to be mentioned. Robert Reed would want me to.
Last week, every time Evan was saying any character, I started to make a joke, and then he'd be like, and then they developed a horrible illness, or like,
Yeah.
they started like doing horrible things for money, whatever it would be. So I just was like, I better wait, because this person probably committed suicide.
We don't have to wait long for this thing to play out because the episode's in its final couple of minutes. So we
And
know
it's death throes.
We know it's all happening right away here. It's a quick cut. Now it's dark inside. All the kids are waiting in their pre-agreed upon places. There's just one problem though, guys. It's not Alice who comes home first. she must have really been having some good Sam sex. Because she does not get home before Mike and Carol the way it was planned.
Also, how's that the only issue? The show acts like that's what made the plan go wrong. I don't think Alice would have been convinced by this either.
No, I mean, it apparently is a terrible setup because when Mike and Carol open the door, they're annoyed the lights are out, but when the screaming starts and the skull lights up and all that, they don't give a shit. Mike doesn't even seem to be surprised at it. I guess it's kind of like what you mentioned earlier, Brian, where this ghost thing has been going back and forth for like a week now.
They're tired of it.
So they don't really, there's no startling here.
You could see like a demon pry the floorboards up from the bottom of your home, come out and like bite your child's head off, and you'd be like, good one, Bobby, at this point.
This is actually really disappointing for Carol because when they were opening the door to come in, she was like, oh, I can't wait to wake the kids up since the light's out and they're probably sleeping to show them my award.
Yeah, I want all 6 of them to rise from their slumber to see my ribbon.
My
No wonder
sculpting
Marsh is
ribbon.
like this.
Did you guys find out what place it was?
Third.
Third.
Well, it's still a ribbon.
Fine.
You guys have been telling me this whole time. You're like, no, you're wrong. She should have the housekeeper because she's arts and
I
she's so
did say
good
that,
at
you're
it.
Yeah,
right.
Spencer, you were especially like that. I
Yeah.
was too, a little bit. I was like, Van, everyone should have a housekeeper. I love excess.
Yeah, in practice, the plan sucks, though.
It didn't work.
Well,
Mike-
it all looks fake. It's really cool how they rigged it up.
Yeah.
Just doesn't work.
But then also the ghost coming down the stairs like creeps. It doesn't even,
Yeah.
like it would be better if it came at you, but it just kind of.
Mike's kind of deadpan annoyance is kind of funny.
It was. That was my
where he
favorite part
sees
of
it.
that.
And then he says, well, we're going to have to go figure out how we need to fix the lights so we can see who needs to be yelled at.
Who do we need to beat?
And in the next scene, and I thought this whole last part had some strange pacing, and I really wasn't sure if they had already confronted the kids by this point. But our next scene is Alice finally coming home from this hot date. And
Sweaty.
it's too late to make her go through this, but the sculpture is in place near the door in the dark. That alone is suspicious enough to frighten her. So she talks to it first and she says, hey, who's there? Are you a person? And then it doesn't answer because it's a sculpture. And she grabs her purse and smacks the shit out of it.
Good swing.
It explodes. There went Carol's priceless third place bust all over the living room floor.
Well, she could just take a first place prize from Marcia and call it good.
That would be great too. If Marcia was like, don't worry, Mom, I have another one. And
Here.
she sculpted a better version of Mike's head in her room.
I got first place last year.
She's like, actually, if you just want the prize, she opens like a drawer full of ribbons.
As the lights come on, the whole family enters the room together, as only happens in sitcoms. And Carol legitimately seems fucking pissed that her bust is broken all over the floor. And she says, see, kids, this is what happens when you take a joke too far. You break my bust. You break my sculpture, my work of art. And I spent weeks on this.
I think, to be fair, it's not the kid's fault. It is, but it isn't. I think you can blame them for a bunch of shit, but like Alice clubbed it over. But it's not Alice's fault either. I don't know. I thought
So
it was just
basically,
weird.
they should just kind of forgive everyone.
Yeah, there's something felt very precious about Carol being like, so much for third place, and then Mike getting as mad as he does about this.
Yeah.
Who cares?
I was actually surprised. I thought when Carol kind of started to she started to calm down, I thought that was going to be the end of it. But then Mike, everyone upstairs, no allowance for 2 weeks, you pieces of shit.
Yeah, he's like, this is the last straw. My precious wife, her sculpture's been hurt.
My precious head is all over the floor.
I think if you have kids, and I clearly don't have kids, stuff's going to get broken.
Yeah.
You just have to be able
That's
to
how it
shrug
works.
that
And you
off.
hope it's something like this that
Yeah,
sucks.
this is fine. No one gives a shit that this broke, but you.
Did you guys, are you any more
Fucking
clear?
third ass place piece of shit.
Are you any more clear as to had they already talked to the kids by this point and gotten them in trouble in the first place when Alice came home?
They
No.
kind of yelled at him while they were there.
Yeah, but it's right around here. They issue a punishment.
Right.
Right.
So I don't think so.
So,
I don't think
but
they'd
they
gotten
said they
into
were
it.
going to fix the lights and yelled at them, but I guess they hadn't yet by the time Alice came back.
I think because I think she gets back like
Right
essentially
away.
right away because this
Okay.
show, everything has to happen in
Right.
clockwork.
Okay. It was just weirdly presented, and the kids were still hiding when Alice got back. So it was just a little strange. So you would think after this
Which is
dramatic...
what Alice got.
Oh, yeah, that was good. That was worth interjecting. You would think after this big dramatic family blow up that everyone would be real pissy the next day, but no, it's business as usual. Alice serves coffee to Mike. I bet you guys like that. To Mike and Carol as they enjoy their breakfast together perfectly cheerfully. They don't seem mad anymore.
I started this section with Alice feels guilty as she serves breakfast to her masters.
Carol is no longer upset about the bust. She says, I'm starting a new project anyway.
I'm an artiste.
Yeah, I'm so good.
Bobby and Cindy have been trying to do some repair work on the bust, and they bring their attempt down. It's really bad, but Mike gets an opportunity to make some funnies at himself. It's no worse than I feel when I wake up in the morning sometimes. Ha ha.
Yeah, he laughs at himself like he has said the funniest thing.
Also, kids, no allowance for 2 more weeks for trying to fix my head badly. This is the final scene here. After the credits this time, which I did watch, Mike comes home to Carol's new project, and this time it's Alice who has to pose as a classical Greek. This one's going to be a statue for the backyard, which could serve as a bird bath, or, depending on Alice's pose, whether she has her mouth open or not, it could be a fountain.
Do you think the toga over the maid outfit is useful for the actual creation of the sculpture?
I think it is because earlier we noticed that the mother can't do shit unless she has exactly what she needs.
Okay. Do you think Mike needs to be wearing like this purple pleather jacket?
I put down Mike arrives in his navy pants and
From architecting.
purple plastic jacket.
That's what he has to wear there. It's dress code for architects.
He's like, look, not only do I build buildings, I build clothes. These don't look comfortable at all.
I made these out of those ghosts from earlier.
They look hard.
Well, let's not
70s thing.
spend too much time on Mike. On Mike. Let's look at the mom who, while making the new sculpture, which at this point is just a tube of a sculpture, has a Jedi Padawan braid. She doesn't have long enough hair to pin back, but she has the little bit of like, the braid back there. It's stupid.
Yeah, it is a unique look.
Who has that, Carol or Alice?
Carol.
Carol? So she changed from the mullet to that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I didn't notice.
Yeah, she goes to the a little bit of kind of an episode 2 Anakin style.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Maybe
She killed all those Tusken Raiders, too.
She's got a black heart.
That was Fright Night, guys.
It
Yeah.
was.
It was fearful. We all learned a lesson, I think. But what did you guys learn?
I learned ghosts aren't real, because before I thought they were real.
Well, what do you think about werewolves?
I'm kind of frightened by them, but I also have no clue what they are or any traits about
That's why
them.
they're so frightening. Could be anything.
Mhm. I learned that Alice has got it going on. And I'm going to change. My favorite character is Alice.
Okay, I like
I'm
that.
going
That's
with that.
perfectly
I like that.
defensible, actually.
She's got some funny jokes. She's sassy. She's the servant who's forced by blood pact to wait on this horrible family.
Yeah, she was the most
horrible
relatable
people.
character, that's for sure. Like
Or Cindy.
we're all forced into labor and just hope we can have sex with Sam the Butcher in a car.
I'm sticking with Jan on that note because I'm fine with Alice. I've got no problem with her, but doesn't have any kind of meanness in her that I like in Jan.
I do like that
the
about
meanness.
Jan. Who did you say?
Cindy.
You sticking with it?
I'm sticking with
And that's
Cindy.
fair too. I think we picked the only good characters and the ones that border on being good. We didn't really we talked about it in the first episode. We didn't get any more insight, I don't think, into the characters that we didn't already get no insight in from the first one.
We didn't meet Cousin Oliver, so
I read about him, but I don't know much about him. I just know he wasn't in these.
Yeah, he's got glasses, and they brought him on to recharge the show or something, but then killed him like 3 episodes later.
it didn't work.
Huh.
They killed Cousin Oliver?
You have any more details about
I don't
this?
really remember. I didn't look this up. He's someone I
didn't.
remember.
Huh.
He's
Interesting.
a little moppy haired.
He was. I think he was a nerd.
Yeah.
Because none of the Brady kids are actually nerds. You know, that's another thing about the Bradys. They're all some level
they're pretty
of
cool.
Yeah,
They're groovy.
Some level of normal kid in school.
I have to ask the inevitable question, although I don't think you can really compare these two, but do you have a preference on the 2 we covered?
Of the 2 episodes?
Mhm. I think I actually did like the first one better, even though it's real run-of-the-mill.
I'm leaning that way.
It just kind of, the Jan and Marcia dynamic lived up to what I thought it would be. Not that that's necessarily a good thing. It's just, that's what I expected.
I think this one annoyed me more.
It was kind of annoying.
Yeah.
You didn't like Carol sculpting, is I think what sold it for you.
I just don't like Carol. I don't like the idea of calling yourself a stay-at-home mom and then having a human there to do everything for you. It makes me mad.
That's fair.
I don't think I liked either of these. I mean, none of us did, but I'm trying to think about which one I preferred. I think I'm with you guys that it's the first one, only because, like, the plot they're going with at least is trying to do something.
Yeah, there's trying to be a message or something.
Yeah,
along
I
those
mean,
lines.
it's more than just like
Yeah, there wasn't a message in this one, that's for sure.
let Alice get some.
So this is interesting though that you had the most experience with the Brady Bunch coming in, and very much so, very resolutely did not enjoy any part of this
and
going
that's
back.
I don't know if this transitions us into like our final
Sure,
thoughts
let's
on
do
this.
it.
But I'll start with that, which is I was actually very surprised by this. I thought I would feel
You thought
more
you'd like it more.
Yeah, I thought I would have more of a nostalgia. And this actually I kind of like that I felt this way because it reaffirms, well, and you guys did too, but like, no, the Mary Tyler Moore Show was good.
It genuinely was. Yeah,
but
compared to
this, I
particular.
watched this and I felt no warm feelings, and I almost felt embarrassed for like liking it at all as a kid. And I couldn't believe how poor the acting was in places and how half-assed it felt at times, how little it had to say, not just about the state of current affairs like we discussed earlier, but now's the time to bring this up. There are so many legitimately interesting and issues that could have been helpful to people to bring up about, combining families and the issues that might arise from that, the problems the kids might have, the parents might have with the kids. None of that is explored in this show. This show just says, more the merrier, everybody's good. They don't even have the decency to say anything happened to Carol's husband because they can't make her divorced.
That's right, because
and they already did
died.
Mike's wife did, but
Okay.
they already did that, so they just had to be vague. There's a lot of stuff like that where it's like, you guys want to claim innovation, but you did nothing other than the most cursory thing of saying two people who already have kids can get married. And beyond that, the show takes on the form of any sitcom that would just be two parents with a bunch of kids. There's nothing about them not being blood siblings that comes into play here or anything like that. I don't remember there being a whole lot of episodes of the Brady Bunch where people struggled feeling Mike was the real dad. You know what I mean? Like
The opposite, in fact.
Yeah, exactly. They just immediately all accept one another.
Marcia wrote that letter that made Mike Father of the Year, where she said, even though he hasn't been my dad long, he's the best dad.
In fact, the biggest conflict is Jan and Marcia, who are blood-full siblings.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, if I step back and look at it, I found the Waltons better in regards to
It's a better show.
showing things. Yeah, it was a better show. This felt so dirty. It felt cheap. This felt like a 2022 TV show that's written by 10 ad executives, but in 1972.
I mentioned this earlier, how it feels like a precursor to today's modern era of we only want to suck up nostalgia after working our 60 hours rather than challenge our brains because we're giving it all to work. This feels like an early version of that, of like, turn your brain off and just watch this shit. And that is network TV. I mean, it's escalated into more and more of that over time.
And add to that, we found out beginning of last episode, the show wasn't that popular at the time, meaning the people who were adults and drove viewership numbers didn't like this. It only became popular once the kids who were alive in this era, who would have lived like the Bradys, at least somewhat, grew up and then started watching it or saying they liked it.
One thing I think that's interesting about that is it makes the Brady Bunch like an accidental That 70s Show. You can almost watch it for the time capsule of we're talking about the era, but the people who are watching it 20 years after the show actually aired. It's weird.
It was not good. I just didn't like it.
The points you guys brought up are all pretty common call-outs, actually, in the modern times. While people do appreciate it for its simplicity, there was an article I was reading that pointed out several of these topics, which is that, number one, some of the issues that the Bradys faced, oh shit, Jan lost her awards, kind of pale in comparison to what children, especially like in the recent time periods, the stuff that kids that age are going through are quite a bit heavier. There's bullying topics you could get into. There's horrible things that happen in schools, and they touch on Marcia losing awards, light things like that. There's not real conflict here, and it's kind of insulting to a child watching that, being like, this is the worst thing I
Insulting
can
is a
deal
good
with.
word for kind of how this felt. For an adult or a kid watching it, I feel like you'd come away like,
The other thing is what you pointed out, how there really isn't any conflict between the blended families, which the show creator wanted to do it for a blended family and then ignored that they were a blended family. They called their step parent just mom and
it's
dad.
like they sold the show on the premise and then threw the premise away.
Well, then maybe they thought people didn't actually want that. But yeah, there was no hesitation at all for them all to live as though they were actually a blood family when there would be. That's not especially some of them being so close to like adult years, there would be some friction in that household. And they didn't touch any of that. They took the easy way out on all of it for sure. And the episodes, as we just found out personally, were all fluff. So there's a lot of shortcomings in the show. I just never thought we would say, and it's obvious, but I never thought we would say, the Waltons is just so much better.
But I mean it.
I know, but we were not happy when we did the Waltons.
No, and that's another show I felt disappointed by because I expected the show to physically be better than it was, but it certainly outpaces the Brady Bunch. Because again, just the sheer laziness of it, I'm not saying every show needs to handle deep issues or have any sort of heft or like deep character development, but if it doesn't, it better be entertaining, and this is not.
But even to your point last episode, which was like, maybe there's a neighbor whose dad doesn't come home from the war. You don't even have to focus on that. Yeah. You just have that be a bit so that there's a tinge
Acknowledge
of
this
it.
is a real world you're living in.
I think at this point, having just discussed that we like the Waltons more than a show that we've probably done as much as we can with the Brady Bunch. Having said that, we do a little thing at the end of every other episode where we give a little sneak preview of the show we're doing next. And Brian's got something for us that he's going to follow the Brady Bunch up with.
It's a gun!
Whoa, I don't want to follow the Brady Bunch up with this PP7. Wow. All I could think of was a GoldenEye gun.
I thought, briefly, my brain went, he's picking a James Bond TV show?
No, I was referring to the joke you made.
The aforementioned gun.
Yeah, so Marcia and Jan don't get along, and that got me to thinking, like, what's that look like in adult siblings? And that got me to picking Everybody Loves Raymond, which we will start covering.
I was ready for this to happen.
Next time around, our first episode will be season 3, episode 16 from 1999. It's called Frank's Tribute. Ray and Robert make a tribute to Frank for his Man of the Year party at his lodge. That's our first one. Our second one is 5 years later in 2004. Season 8, episode 21. It's called The Model. Huh. Wonder what that's about. Robert gets discovered by a modeling agency. I won't say anything more about that.
Yeah,
we'll be covering Everybody Loves Raymond starting next week. And it's a show we all obviously think is hilarious, so we'll be starting it off with a bang by saying what Frank's up to at the lodge.
I think if you're out there, you're listening, and you don't think you can catch next 2 weeks' episodes, I'll get you covered here. Are you ready? Gee, Darla, or whatever the fuck the wife's name is. I'm Raymond, and I'm dumb. Oh, gee, Raymond.
I wanted to do that.
Okay, you can do it.
Yeah.
I have an assignment for both of you guys, though, with the Brad Garrett voice. Can we get a Marsha? Since you said this was an adult Brady Bunch feud with the siblings, can we get, you know what to do?
Raymond.
Oh, Raymond. I hate my wife. There. All of this show summed up.
Hold on. You forgot a big important part of this whole thing. Frank, the lasagna's burning.
Now we're good.
I didn't see very much of the show. I just got bits.
Do you think it's funny?
I mean, I don't know. I think that I enjoyed an element of it, but I don't know it well enough to say for sure whether I like it or not.
I think a little bit of my brain says that there's going to be some funny stuff.
I think it will be.
So I've probably seen the most of this also because I watched it with my mom and sister some when it was airing as a child. And then I've caught some in syndication here and there. And I think my going into this, my memory of the show is that, yes, it's has a lot of family tropes and is kind of unbearable at times in that regard and has some annoying characters. But I think there's some good jokes in there. Obviously, there are some good character actors that pop up and are in the cast.
I think there will be some elements of quality coming up, and that's something we were missing these past
there will be
weeks.
some elements of quality. Also,
you watch the Power Rangers, too.
No, I said last couple. I was only meaning my shows.
Oh, okay.
I'm not throwing Rita Repulsa in this.
And we get to figure out how they were fitting Brad Garrett onto the screen.
Because he's big.
Yeah, he's like 6'8".
He's almost as big as Alice.
That's one interesting thing about The Office is that, I don't remember their names, Dwight and Jim are both like 6'3".
Yeah.
And my Steve Carell's like 5'4" or something little. So it's interesting how they managed to do the height stuff there. And if you look out for it, it's obvious what they're doing. So they might be doing the same thing with Everyone Loves Raymond.
Well, why didn't they have Brad Garrett in The Office? It would have worked. I don't know what you have him do. Just
he
put
could
him
have been
there.
any of them.
Could have been Kevin.
He could have been Pam.
Yeah, easy. Could have been Angela.
I'm going to marry you, Jim.
Man.
I'm an artist.
Should I go away to graphic design school?
And then the second I get any pushback, just drop it
Oh,
entirely.
there's this guy from Mad Men wants to date me.
This is one of the reveals where I'm just ready. I'm just like, let's go right into it. I wouldn't mind if we just started right now, this next episode. Look, we've been doing this for a while, guys. We've been cooped up in this little room. I need to get outside. I need to get some fresh. I need to get some sunshine. I need to get some rays. I need to go outside where everyone's laughing and it's a sunshine day. I'll reread it. I'll reweed it.
Baby Spencer gonna reread it.
I'm not going to reread the whole thing. I'm just going to read that again. I'm going to reread that synopsis now. I'll start with the synopsis part. I think I said it. You're going to have to get that out. You're going to have to do something about that.
I can't stop thinking about it.
That's all right.
Okay, all right. I'm a professional.
Oh.
Into the sunshine. Can't you dig the sunshine? Nothing started the same. Can't you hear it calling your name?
Oh, I think I'll take a walk every day now. The summer doesn't show me the way.
To be happy now, I just can't stay inside all day. I gotta get out, give me some of those rays. Everybody smile.